Join us right now, preview a little high school football action. It's playoffs finally. And I think just about every single team in the playoffs, it seems, which Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show, he loves playoffs. And he loves the fact
the playoffs, but let's get a week into it and get rid of some of these horrible matchups that we have.
Oh, now, Stephen, don't all kids deserve to play in the playoffs?
Everybody gets a trophy and a snow cone and a sticker.
That's
no,
nice.
They don't, and here's the deal. We have bad games. It takes away, everybody says, well, it adds to the regular season because you don't know till right up to the end of the season, but it takes away from the playoffs. To me, there's no reason to have mismatches where you have a 1-9 team that's won one ball game in 3 years taking on a team that's undefeated or 1 or 2 losses. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The outcome is determined. I know they play every game on the field. Yeah. But to a point. But, if I step in the ring against the heavyweight champion of the world, I'm getting knocked out. It's a foregone conclusion. It doesn't matter how much training I do. That's what's going to happen. And that is just a little bit silly. But, in the mix of that, there's going to be some good games, and it's the starting of the, you lose and you go home, and we get down to the best of the best, and it's just part of it. But I don't agree with UIL, and never will.
Well, it's one of those that I think also, if you've got one of these teams, and you see it in all levels of football, where you've got a team who's really desperate, they've got nothing to lose, they're going to throw everything at you, and the team that's favored and the team that is the powerhouse, that they could deal with injuries and everything else. And you're right, it just in a lot of these games it just doesn't make sense when you've got 73-0 blowouts, and that doesn't help anybody.
Well, and here's an example: 9 and I just lost it. Muleshoe 9-1 on the year, taking on a 3-7 Slayton team last night. Final score of the game, 76-25.
Wow.
Care to guess who won the game?
I'm guessing it was not Slayton.
That's right. I mean, so it's ridiculous. Shallow Water 63, Amarillo River Road 14. Those are both out of Class 3A Division 1. Class 3A Division 2, Henrietta beat Sanford Fritch in the Panhandle 48-14. And the Post Golden Antelopes beat Crane by a score of 51-12. Class 2A Division 2, Memphis beats Smyre, another team that's another game that was really a mismatch. Memphis wins that 40-14. Quanah beats the Plains Cowboys. Plains goes into the playoffs at 1-9. Quanah gets the win there 53-0. Roscoe taking on Link 68-31. And in the best game that I've got on my board so far, Spring Lake Earth, the Wolverines there lose to the Wheeler Mustangs 31-27. In Class 4A Division 2, Sweetwater Blank Dalhart and Monahans takes out the Bushland Falcons 40-14. That's a wrap-up of the playoff games in the area from last night. Now let's look at some stuff going on this evening in the Class 6A ranks. You've got 7-3 El Paso El Dorado taking on 8-2 Amarillo Tascosa. Used to be that in these matchups, the Amarillo schools would win the majority of the time, but El Paso has really elevated their level of play, especially at that very large school, at that 6A school division. And that game is a toss-up, a 7-3 and 8-2. That ought to be a good ball game. The other one from our area that we'd know is that's the Permian taking on Arlington Bowie. Permian at 9-1, one of the better teams they've had in several years, taking on a good Bowie team. Drop down into Division 2, Lubbock Monterey, the Plainsmen at 5-5, taking on 6-4 El Paso Americas team. And see what I just said about Amarillo Tascosa and El Paso El Dorado, because I think the same thing applies there. I think Monterey has a chance in that one. San Angelo Central takes on Arlington High, and I think the Bobcats get your win there. We drop down into the 5A ranks, and you've got Plainview at 5-5 taking on a 9-1 Canyon Randall team. Plainview played Canyon Randall in non-district play, and they played with them for a while, but in the end, Randall was too much, and I kind of think that's what we'll see happen again this time around. We drop down into Division 2, and Canyon takes on San Angelo Lakeview. 8-2 Canyon versus a 3-7 San Angelo Lakeview. Put that one over in that tab of school games that we were talking about earlier. Canyon walks away with that one. Drop down into Division 4, or Class 4A Division 1. The Levelland Lobos will take on Fabens, and Fabens is 2-8 on the year. There's another team And then Snyder gets Mineral Wells. Snyder 5-5 on the year. Mineral Wells 8-2. I think Mineral Wells probably too much for Snyder, but Snyder has played some really scrappy football. And this is what I'd say about the playoff deal. You ought to have a 5-5 record at least to continue. If you don't have that, it ought to be a bye. How's that for a compromise?
I like that.
But the Snyder Tigers there have a chance. I think Levelland advances in the playoffs. Andrews 9-1 on the year, takes on a 2-7 Lubbock Estacado team, and I think Andrews walks away with that one as well. When we get down into Division 4, Class 4A, Division 2, the Sweetwater and Dalhart game we had last night, and then Class 2A, Canadian and Hale Center. This is one I don't think I mentioned just a minute ago. Canadian, the number one team in the state, taking on the Hale Center team. I think won 3 or 4 games this year. That game was 72-12 last night.
Wow.
You've also got New Deal at 10-0 taking on 6-4 Panhandle. I think the Lions advance there. The Floyd Whirlwinds have their hands full taking on the number 2 team out of first district up there, taking on the Stratford Oaks, and their Floyd sits at 4-6 on the year. Stratford at 9-1, and that's another game that they're really going to have to step it up. Wellington taking on Abernathy. That should be a really good football game with 2 teams that I think are pretty evenly matched. Drop down a little bit further, and we'll look there at Crosbyton taking on Sundown. The Chiefs are at 9-1. Sundown at 4-6. Seagraves takes on Lockney. Seagraves 9-1 on the year. Lockney Longhorns are at 5-5. I think Seagraves runs away with that game. Seagraves' only loss this year was to Muleshoe, and that was at a time when we really didn't know what Muleshoe was, but now we know that was a really good Muleshoe team that beat them, and I think Seagraves advances several rounds into the playoffs. So that's kind of what we've got on our board. Lots of games, and we'll start whittling them down week to week. Last Friday night of the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show is all these playoff games begin to move to Saturday, and we just weren't. It's the end of our run for another year, but a great year at that, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Stephen, we always appreciate you joining us. And, again, another great season, and always appreciate you taking some time, even when you're out of the state. You come on the show, so we appreciate that.
Well, I enjoy it every week, and we wish you guys the best of luck, and hopefully we can do it again next year.
That sounds great. Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show, the playoff edition tonight, 10 p.m. to midnight. Stephen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. Have a good day.
You too. That's Stephen Orr, West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show. He's not happy about all the football teams that made it into the playoffs. And, just there are a few of them who probably should not be there. But, we live in the trophy. Everyone gets a trophy mentality society, so everybody wins.
Don't forget the stickers.
Are there any losers in the playoffs, or does everyone just get a participation trophy?
I think they're still losers.
Are there?
This year.
I don't know. We're getting closer and closer where that's not going to happen. All right, I want to thank him. 10 p.m. to midnight, you can hear the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show for the final time this year here on KFYO and also on our sister station, 1340 The Fan.